Here we are at the end of our tsunami unit already. 5 short weeks of lessons, learning, group work, and already we are finished up with it. Rather than posting a new task for day 1 of week 16, we're actually going back and looking at week 15, day 2. In this last week, we were looking at and talking a lot about what technologies would be best for the community of Ryoishi. We were talking about how there are different walls or different wave stopping devices that are better and worse than others. Some are really high quality, some are really low quality, and we were able to look at and examine some data following the videos that we saw. And in this data, it gives us a little bit better information about which wave stopping devices, which tsunami reducing designs are better or worse in certain areas. When looking at this work from week 15, day 2, the exit ticket, answers ranged from very brief and kind of level 1 answers up to very detailed, very thoughtful level 4 answers. And in thinking about this, even though I had told you all that we were going to take an end of unit assessment way back when we started this, sitting here in this week before winter break, I've ultimately decided that we are not going to do that. And the positive of that is that that reduces the stress a little bit. No end of unit assessment to really sit and freak out over and try to see if you're really emphasizing your thoughts on that level 4 opportunity. The downside or the negative is that that drastically cuts down on those number of level 4 opportunities you've had. And this is going to be kind of your biggest one of those up to this point. So with that in mind, everybody is going back through, whether they're at a level 1, 2, 3, or 4, everyone is going back through and fixing up their thoughts, their answers on this in order to improve their thinking, because we can all do that, right? So here's what I am expecting and wanting from you. You're going to go back and you're going to look at the feedback that I have given you on week 15, day 2. And again, you can find that in Google Classroom. It should be in that week 15 section. And go back and look at your original answer. You should see some feedback down below that. Now, keep in mind, when you're opening this up in your Google Classroom, when you're viewing this assignment, it actually might have the icon in 2 spots. One of them is going to be up in the top right-hand corner. One of them is going to be down underneath all of the instructions. And I might have that backwards depending on the orientation. But in the top right-hand corner where there's the turn in, mark is done, all the comments, that is not the link, because it's going to just show you you've submitted this. Do you want to look at your answers? Do you want to redo your answers? That sort of stuff. Down underneath, when you're looking at the bottom left-hand side, that spot is where you will see a link that opens up, and it's going to look just like this, with the exception being that you have your answers filled in already, and it's going to have feedback from me as your teacher. Okay, take a look at that. Come back in. Here now, back in the meeting, let's think about what we can do to fix up your answers. What can we do to review that? Again, a lot of different technologies. There were some really big, successful ideas. Recurved wall was a really popular one because it scored a 5 out of 5 on breaking the waves. Tetrapods, also very popular for the same reason. It seemed like mangroves were a really popular idea as well, because at least in the video we saw they did a great job, though on these they only scored a 3 out of 5. But we ultimately realized mangroves aren't going to work, are they? When we think about how long it takes to build and we read this detailed explanation, right here it says that they only grow in the southernmost parts of Japan. What does that look like? Well, if we are here on this map, and some maps are a little bit different, we have the country of Japan up here. We have the Ryoishi in the northernmost part. And then we have this map of where mangroves grow across the world. Lots of them growing kind of along the coast of the United States, South America, Africa, Australia, all of these islands, Indonesia, Philippines, New Zealand, all of this stuff, as well as up the coast of some of these Asian countries, but not really as far north as Japan, though some maps have shown that. Some maps would show just a little sprinkling of them down here. This one that does not, though. Are mangroves possible? Is that a good solution? Not for Japan. what areas are mangroves a good solution for? If we look here, I'm marking in green, pretty much any of these spaces are great for tsunami stopping because there are a ton of tsunamis that are kind of coming in here. If you recall, let's see, are they good for tsunamis here along the coast of South America, Africa? They would be, except the Atlantic Ocean doesn't really have tsunamis, so in that case, that might not be necessary. Some classes did bring up, however, that, ooh, you know what? Hurricanes are a huge phenomenon kind of across these parts of the Atlantic Ocean. We see hurricanes coming through. Maybe that suggests they happen down further south too. So possibly mangroves could be useful for another natural disaster in this vicinity of South America and Africa. But as far as our tsunamis go, not so much. Again, quick reminder on that. The Pacific Ocean is surrounded by a lot of convergent plate boundaries, plates that are crashing into each other. And when these plates crash into each other, what happens is they tend to get subducted underneath. By subduction, we mean one is sliding underneath. Sometimes they'll catch and snap. A great big earthquake will happen. These bigger earthquakes tend to lead to big tsunamis, whereas on divergent plate boundaries, like those going through the center of the Atlantic Ocean, these earthquakes tend to be pretty small. So those don't really cause tsunamis to happen. So we've ruled out mangroves. Mangroves are actually not really an option. But some really popular ones still include that recurved wall, which again did really well in the video, and it also shows that it does really good here in this score. Tetrapods are also a leading option. There are other options out there for you to suggest. Don't feel limited to these two. Feel free to stick with your original guns as long as you can support that. So what are some things we are looking for in this answer? Though in that level 4 extension, and keep in mind this is your final chance to really show your level 4 thinking on this to boost from that 3 to 4, from that 3 up to a 4. Just listing out 3 criteria doesn't actually meet the expectations of a level 4. It doesn't even hardly meet the expectations of a level 3. Because the question is, why do you think this solution is best for Ryoishi? And just saying, well, it did good on its blocking waves, it does allow boats to move, and it's good for marine life. That's not showing your thinking, and that's not nearly what you're capable of. For all of these things, we need to explain why. Why does this matter? So here's what I want you to do in your rewrite of this. You are the engineer. You are part of a team of engineers who is being considered for this project in Ryoishi. In order to convince them that your idea is best and that they should hire you, you need to give them information that proves that your suggestion is better than everybody else's. So you need to look at this data and you need to connect it to their lives. Well, you see, citizens of Ryoishi, we know that in the 2011 tsunami, you had a tremendous amount of destruction with those 60-foot waves. Part of that was due to the fact that Kamaishi, down to the south, that their breakwater sent more waves up to you, but ultimately that's not going to change. So we recommend you have a really strong one. And we know that these recurved walls are incredibly successful, scoring a 5 out of 5 on their ability to stop waves. Make it relevant to them. Also important to acknowledge some of the big downsides, though. Look, we know the cost is huge. The cost is enormous. It's twice as much as these tetrapods. And if you want to go with tetrapods, we can make that happen. They're a 4 out of 5. They're a solid idea. But keep in mind, those tetrapods, they don't allow as many fish. And we know that fishing is important for your livelihood. Again, we recommend the recurved wall because that gives you as much access to get in and out of the water as possible, while also maintaining the sea life so you can continue that fishing profession. The more you can connect it back, the more you can provide the scores and also explain why those scores, why those high scores or why this wall is important, why these criteria, that is, why these criteria are important, the better it will be to convince them. Maybe it's even worth you going through and thinking, okay, do we want it to block waves? Yes. Do we want it to allow them to the ocean? Yes. Do we want to make sure it doesn't impact their fishing? Yes. Do we care about their view? Not so much. Do we care about the cost? Yes, we do, but we can make some explanations of why that might not be as big of a concern in light of all of the strengths. Do we care about how long it takes to build? Yes, we do. In this regard, actually, tetrapods are a little bit better because they go up a little bit faster. Again, making a case. Why is the recurved wall better if that is the one that you were going for? And finally, maintenance. Yes, we know it costs a lot, but though it does require a little bit of maintenance, overall that wall is going to last for decades. You're going to need to keep it up, make sure it's functioning, but it's going to last you decades in the long run. Make your case, try to pitch it to Ryoishi in a way that helps them to know why tetrapods, recurved wall, any of these other options are the best option for them in their situation. As always, reach out, let me know if you have any questions, but again, can't emphasize how important this is. Get this finished up, make sure your thoughts are detailed and all there, and always come out to me if you want to work on it a little bit together. All right.